Hey guys, what's going on? Just want to take a minute to go ahead and address a few things on the kettlebell swing. Maybe clear up some controversy. Let's talk about the swing. All athletic movement and human movement in general originates from the pelvic girdle. Okay, the psoas is actually the first muscle to activate when initiating walking. Psoas is a muscle that's located deep down in the abdomen. If you think about any kind of exercise that really focuses muscles of the pelvic girdle, it really works the muscles of the pelvic girdle in an explosive manner. Not too many exercises come to mind. And along my 15-year career, I really haven't come across that many exercises that really work the explosive power. Maybe some forms of plyometrics, things like that. But the kettlebell swing is a very active tool in creating a very explosive and very dynamic pelvic girdle and hip girdle. I've seen athletes, increase their vertical by a foot and a half after training with kettlebells properly for 6 months. So, a couple things. Hip drive. Hip drive in the kettlebell swing is extremely important. What we must keep in mind is that the kettlebell swing is not a squat. Okay, we are not squatting. What we're trying to do with the kettlebell swing is we're trying to load up the posterior chain. Okay, for those of you that don't know, the posterior chain are the hamstrings, the glutes, the paraspinals. Okay, those are muscles of the backside. Now, when I'm doing the swing, if you notice this, my hip position, what I'm doing with my hips is I'm hinging my hips. Okay, I am not squatting. When I squat, okay, I'm loading up my quads as opposed to my hamstrings. Okay, the hamstrings are much like a slingshot. The further I pull that slingshot back, the faster that projectile is going to travel forwards. Same thing with the swing, guys. Okay, the further I drive my hips back, the more I'm loading that posterior chain. Now, if you notice, my torso and my hip girdle move as one unit. Okay, our body is literally one unit, guys. All of our muscles are connected. So why wouldn't we want to train in that manner? Right? You'd be crazy not to want to. Okay, so as my hip girdle goes backwards, notice my torso comes forward. Okay, this is a very solid position. Okay, I still am maintaining my center of balance because my pelvic girdle is going back and my chest is coming forward. Now, this isn't a natural position that we assume every single day. What we're doing here, guys, is creating a new neural pathway. Okay, we're teaching the body a new movement pattern. So, in order to teach something to our body, we have to teach it properly. Okay, and with intent. Okay, you can't just have sloppy repetitions, because then guess what? When it comes time to execute or to put that movement into a real life scenario, what's going to happen? Okay, you're going to execute the way you practice. Okay, so perfect practice makes perfect execution. Okay, so loading up the posterior chain. So as I drive my hips back, my torso comes forward. Okay, notice my shins. My shins stay vertical at all times. At no time do my knees bow in, or do I create external space. Okay, external space is anything outside of my little circle here. Okay, this is external space. When you bullfrog your legs, when you're doing this, it's external space. To create internal space, what I'm doing is driving my hips backwards, finding internal space within my pelvic girdle. Okay, so as the bell descends, okay, we're simply going to stay locked out as long as possible, and then simply get out of the kettlebell's way. As the bell travels between your legs, okay, simply get out of its way. If we just get out of its way, guess what? We automatically go into a hip hinge and not into a squat. Okay. A good cue for this, guys, is use the wall as your teacher. Okay, grab a kettlebell. You can do it without a kettlebell if you don't have access to one, and go ahead and stand in front of the wall about 2 feet. And what you want to do is practice hinging your hips and touching that wall with your glutes every single time. Okay, this will form what we call bell butt over time, guys. All right, you get extremely round, powerful glutes. Okay, so remember, the swing is a hinge, not a squat. Okay. Pay attention to what your knees are doing. Your knees must track your toes. What are your hips doing? Are you hinging or are you squatting? Shoulder position, extremely important in the swing. Now, this is where the big controversy comes into play. Why don't we want to lift that kettlebell over our heads? Well, if we look at it from a physiological standpoint, guys, anytime we have a ballistic movement and we bring it up overhead, if we are not locked out and we don't own that position and we're not really grounded, you're really compromising the vertebral column in the spine. So it's definitely not something that I practice or any of my students practice either. What we do is we practice the hardstyle swing. So hardstyle swing, what you're doing is you're staying extremely tight and locked out throughout the whole movement. Okay, shoulders are staying nice and packed. At no time do you want to feel like Superman. Like if you were to let go of that kettlebell, you would fly forward. That's the very last thing you want to feel. Okay, so shoulders are nice and packed. If my shoulders remain packed, guys, guess what? That bell can never go up overhead. Why? Because my shoulder's packed. I'm nice and tight. That lat is locked in. Okay, unless I disengage there and repack it above my head, it's not going any higher than my head. Okay. Remember, the kettlebell swing is all about training the muscles of the pelvic girdle and creating an explosive hip girdle. Okay. If we're lifting up overhead, we're losing that. So stay extremely tight and locked out. Okay. And hip thrust. Okay. Biomechanical breathing, the way you breathe when executing any given movement is extremely important. You can generate 30 to 40% more power by just incorporating power breathing and biomechanical breathing and pressurization into your movements. Okay, so when I'm executing the swing, pay attention to my breathing. Okay, if you were standing in front of me, you would visibly be able to see my abdomen engage every single time. Now think about it, guys. Let's get rid of useless crunches. How often in real life are you going to lay on your back and do a crunch? Never. Okay, never. Okay, but there are going to be times where you're going to have to be standing upright, bracing for something, bracing for a punch, bracing for impact. And that's the ability to be able to generate power. Not only put power out, be able to receive it and then send it back. Okay, be able to absorb a hit, and transfer that energy back to your opponent or what have you. So with that said, guys, the swing is a very powerful movement. When practiced and mastered, it can definitely enhance overall athletic performance, movement, and day-to-day activities will become easier. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with that kettlebell out in front of me, okay, and just center in football. I measure it about a foot. Okay. What I want to do is I want to go through an order of operations in my head. Okay. All right. So I want to glance at the horizon. Okay. I'm going to go down. I'm going to hinge my hips. Okay, in order to get down into my initial swing position. Okay, I'm going to grab my bell. I'm going to fill up my belly with my air. I'm going to grab my bell, pack my shoulders, hike past that kettlebell back, and from the front. Same order of operations. The Russian kettlebell, guys, is the best workout. Hands down, you will get standing in a 3x3 box, standing completely still. So apply these mechanics into your swing. Watch your physique change in many ways you never thought. Enjoy.